Freshman year will be a very eventful year. The goals as a freshman are wide-ranging, but we'll focus on adjusting and setting up foundations at the beginning, and towards the end, we'll begin taking advantage of more advanced opportunities to propel you ahead of the curve. Now, let's be real. As a pre-med, your entire college career is going to be colored with a theme of higher intensity and rigor than most non-pre-med colleagues. That's just the nature of the beast, but that's okay. If you're mindful of this difference early on, you'll be better equipped to navigate the temptations that will inevitably arise on your path. Just because your political science roommate never studies until 2 days before the exam and still gets straight A's doesn't mean you should as well. This also doesn't mean that your college career cannot be incredibly fun and eventful. Again, it's all about being effective and intelligent with how you use your time. If you deliberately work hard, efficiently, and effectively, you open up time for guilt-free enjoyment and freedom. The difficult thing about giving generic advice is that what one student needs to hear may be very different than what another student needs to hear. I'm pretty hardcore now, and I've developed some workaholic tendencies during college and medical school, but when I first started college, I wasn't working anywhere nearly hard enough. I procrastinated, I only studied a few days before the exam, and I even pulled an all-nighter once, but luckily doing it once was enough to show me that it was a bad idea and I shouldn't ever do it again. For the majority of students, the allure, excitement, and flood of new opportunities of college results in them spending too much time partying, socializing, and going on spontaneous adventures, but not enough time working or studying. It's important to be wary of peer pressure here. Just because other friends are going all out doesn't mean you need to be as well. In fact, if you aren't considered one of the few people that studies more than most other students, chances are you aren't studying hard enough. Now, I'm just speaking to the averages when it comes to freshman year of college. I'm not saying you shouldn't be having fun and socializing. That being said, if you already study really hard and spend too much time with your nose buried in the books, then maybe you should ease up a little and socialize more. Without knowing you personally and working with you one-on-one, I can only provide broader and more general advice that helps equip you to make your own decisions. This is likely the first time in your life that you're living on your own, away from your parents, and completely or nearly completely independently. It's easy to bite off more than you can chew. Rather than focusing on multiple components and trying to get ahead, we advise that you instead focus on the basics. The first and most important goal is to successfully transition from high school to college as smoothly and successfully as possible. At this point in the process, there are no large demands in terms of tasks that you need to accomplish for your medical school applications. Rather, one should focus on getting into the swing of college life, both socially and academically. Seek out like-minded people who will become your friends and your support system for the rest of college. The most obvious place to look is where you live. Who lives on the same floor in your dorm or in your building? You can also explore social, extracurricular, or academic groups on campus to find people with similar interests or goals. The second goal is to cultivate the right mindset. Those of the checkbox mentality mindset will tell you the actions you must take, but the greater levels of success and achieving your highest potential isn't about the actions you take, but is rather ontological in nature. It's about your way of being. As we talked about previously, cultivating resilience and understanding Stoic fundamentals will serve you well, but it goes deeper. You should actively develop skills in self-assessment and self-reflection. My greatest periods of growth occurred during times of deep introspection as a college student. With the right mindset and by understanding the importance of being a well-rounded member of society, you'll go much further than the average pre-med. Don't pursue extracurriculars for the sole purpose of padding your application. Rather, pursue those activities which will allow you to develop leadership, integrity, confidence, maturity, and will ultimately challenge you to become a better version of yourself. Paradoxically, focusing solely on how to get into medical school will actually make you a weaker applicant. By developing yourself while concurrently working towards medical school admissions as a central but not singular goal, you'll be in a much better position. The next highest priority during freshman year is to implement the right study strategies. Some people say that studying is highly personal. and it depends on whether you're a visual or auditory or kinesthetic learner, and that people should study how they prefer. That's nonsense for multiple reasons, including the fact that recent studies have demonstrated inferior results when students study based on their preferred study style. There's room for personalization. Things like where you study, what hours you study, the type of music you use, and other factors can be a personal decision. But when it comes to the core of how you actually study, science is king. There are 7 evidence-based study strategies that you should be using that have scientific evidence to support their efficacy. We'll get to those in the next lesson. For now, understand that consistency is king. It's better to study a little every day, even using suboptimal study strategies, than to cram last minute with active learning and spaced repetition. Too many pre-meds fall into a hole with their GPA by procrastinating and by having poor study strategies early on. GPAs work by averages. Therefore, falling into a hole early on makes it difficult to pull yourself out. The 4th goal is to test your commitment to the field of medicine. I've seen far too many students think that they want to be doctors, only to find out that they don't actually want to go to medical school. The wasted effort, excess stress, and lost money is a source of significant regret. Now is the time to really test your commitment to medicine. Is this something you actually want to go into? A big part of this comes down to honest reflection and journaling. As we spoke about in the beginning of this course, self-reflection and even getting a bit uncomfortable will make the process easier for you. When you truly understand your why, you'll be better equipped to endure the challenging times ahead. But this isn't an exercise just for your notebook. You also need to go out into hospitals and clinics to see what doctors actually do and see for yourself firsthand whether or not it's something you actually want to commit the rest of your life to. Shadowing is the most common way, but there are other extracurriculars that you should consider. We have an entire lesson on extracurriculars coming up soon. The last goal is to get a head start on important extracurriculars. The average pre-med student or pre-med advisors may say you're being too aggressive or that you have plenty of time to worry about those things later on in college. Average behaviors get average results. At Med School Insiders, we're not about average. If you want to get a 99.9th percentile MCAT, get acceptances to multiple top medical schools, and even scholarships with schools fighting over you to incentivize you, you'll need to do much better than average. I started seeking out a research lab during freshman year and began working during my spring quarter. And this provided me with basic science publications and abstracts that were extremely helpful to my application just a couple years later. Research, clinical experience, volunteering, and some other activities completely unrelated to medicine should all be included in your mix of experiences. More on that shortly.